right, let's do this. Hello. I should kill that. Let's put this in airplane mode for a minute so that we don't get emails or anything. There we are. All right. First of all, thank you for joining. I It's my first attempt at doing this. I've prepped for this for about 2 years, and I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. But it's happening today finally. Hopefully, I'll be able to keep it up and do it every week as I planned. Uh, every week, I'll try something different of all the things that I do, be drawing or playing music, doing music, or painting miniatures, which is something that I've gotten into lately again. Today, we're going to do some tattoo designs using stamp brushes that I've acquired through the years. Um, and before I start with the whole process, I want to tell us a short story. When a few years ago, about 2 years ago, I got got into digital art because before that I thought that please, I was stupid back then. I thought that it was an art that you have a machine that will do it for you, and obviously I was wrong. And I got into digital art and I'm proven wrong and got quite. I noticed that I was enjoying the process of doing it and how much it how much it cuts my time, my prepping time before a customer. Before I got the iPad and I started doing my designs on the iPad, I would take like an hour and a half, maybe more. And that's time that your customer is just sitting there in the lobby, just waiting. And then someone told me about stamp brushes, and I thought, oh, that's stupid. That is really stupid. Stamp brushes are stupid. And then one day I try it out because my customer was in a hurry. It wasn't in a hurry. The time was short for whatever reason. We didn't have the luxury of being 3 hours of me drawing to then 3 more hours of tattooing. And I decided to try a set. It's like, oh, and that cut my time by more than half. Took me like maybe 45 minutes to finish that design. So I started using stamp brushes to design tattoos after that because it helped tremendously. And the purpose of doing this is to show you that you can use these stamp brushes and create a design and not copy that stamp one to one and make it give it your twist or your expression to this design, to this drawing, because I've seen a lot of newer tattoo artists and apprentices that get into the habit of relying on just stamp brushes, which I get makes your life much easier and makes things roll faster. But some decide to just copy the stamp, and after a while, you start noticing, the same stamps being used over and over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to show how I do my process and talk about my process a little bit, and that way you can see how you can use these stamp brushes and still make your the design your own. So let's say that your customer walked in to the studio and it's like, oh, I want, I don't know what, so many ideas. Let's say I want a skull with a flower and a butterfly. before you would go and find a bunch of photo reference of the flower that you want and the skull that you want, and finding three, four, five different pictures of each of the elements that you want, and then you decide that you want to put something else, so you find three or four more pictures. But that's easy an hour of just going through pictures on Google or Pinterest, which at this point everybody does the same thing. So same as with stamps, you start seeing things starting to repeat itself, and you start to see them in various designs. And although there's nothing wrong with that, is that how you do your tattoos? That's cool. I mean, you're providing a service and you're making your customer happy and you're putting a good quality art out there. So that's great. Just showing a different way of doing it, the way how I do it, and it's in no way the way it's supposed to be done. And this is not in any way trying to these on artists that decide to use the stamps as is and not change anything. This is just the way I do my designs. And some of you might find it interesting to see the process. Anyway, customer walks in, says he wants a skull and a rose and a butterfly. So okay. So first things, you go get the stamp brush that you want. I am going to make note of the stamps that I use, and I'm going to put a link of where you can find them, or at least the ones I remember where I got them, because I have a really big collection of stamps, right? And it's a lot. Sometimes it's it's not that much of a difference going through which stamps I want for a certain design. I have them organized and I have them memorized of where they are, more or less in the list, so that way I can access what I need fast. But if I'm drawing a blank and I have a blank canvas, I'm just trying to see what comes up to my head. Sometimes I just spend an hour just going through stamp brushes. So it's not that different from going to Pinterest or Google and just scrolling endlessly to find what you need. And some of these brushes are more effects than a stamp. So that's just for other purposes. Something that I like to tell the apprentice at the studio when we talk about designing or drawing in the iPad and all that, and using Procreate, which is what I'm using right now, is to learn how how to use this tool properly. To learn this tool, because it's important that they know their way around the app and know what they can and can't do with it, and what uh, they can create here that translates well for tattooing. Because some make the mistake of doing something really elaborate, and when you print that on a stencil, it's not tattoo, because it's very small and you lose all of that detail. And I know this because I did it many times. Um, so I'm talking from experiences. So I found this. I have various skulls and heads brush here, but this is my favorite. It's called Pile of Skulls. I think I got it at Tattoo Smart, if I'm not mistaken. I will check and I will put the link on the description later tonight or tomorrow. I'm gonna say tomorrow. So I found this skull that I want, and then I create another layer, and I find. So we decided that we're going to do a rose. Rose is very common, so that's why I'm using a rose right now. just because it's easy. I have this Orville toolkit. I think it's from Tattoo Smart too. I think I'm gonna contain all the designs from brushes that I got from Tattoo Smart, so that way it's easier to just put one link to their website and you can find what you want because they have a shit ton of them and they're really really good. All of them. I use them a lot. Anyway, so I'm looking for a rose here. I'm pretty sure here they are. Let me see. This one. So it's good. I have at least 10 different flowers, um, flower brushes, not different flowers, flower brushes. It's good when you want to, if you're doing a lot of, lately I've been doing a lot of flower designs and I don't want to fall into using the same reference picture over and over and over and over because, it's noticeable. It's noticeable. At least I notice. Same thing as we did with the rose. I go and I add a new layer and I put the new element that I want to add to it. Put some leaves back here. These are not rose leaves, I'm pretty sure, but they work. So it's art. Anyway, put it here. I'm not really happy with how this is going to cover part of the low, almost the whole lower jaw. But good thing is that it's a different layer. I can change it and take away whatever I don't like from it. Okay. Let me make sure that everything is okay. You guys have any questions? If you're watching and you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll see it and I'll answer the best I can. All right, so continuing with this. Let's keep moving this a little bit. And then maybe another. I'm using the same one. I like the shape. I like how it curves a little bit, and we can do something like this. Gives it nice. Follows the shape of the skull. Skull. Right. There it is. Like lower the opacity. Oh, I'm using the butterfly. Okay, I have this one here. It's called butterfly. And Moth versus butterfly. Here it is. Some pretty cool butterflies. That's a big flutterby. Here to make the skull really pretty. So cute. All right, so once I'm happy with the design and how the elements are put together. Let's say that he wants it in the show, on the shoulder, in the shoulder, on the shoulder. I don't know. Okay, so something like that. The tricep, bicep here. Sorry about that. So took me about, I don't know, however many minutes it has taken me. 15 minutes to put this together. Less than 15 minutes. So you can see how using stamp brushes like this can help the process of creating something for your customer when they walk in, and you don't want your customer to be waiting for you for an hour and a half before you start tattooing them. You want to be, as ready as possible for them. And if it's a walk-in, you want to be able to produce something nice uh, for them in a short amount of time. So now that I have the elements together and I know exactly how I want it to look, and I show this to the customer, I say, hey, it's going to look something similar to this, and I'm going to work some shading or some color if it's going to be in color, whatever. Let me put this here in a group so I can move it all together at the same time. Not like that, can we? Oh, what? There it is. I didn't include the skull or the butterfly. Wow, I'm failing at this. It's like I don't know what I'm doing. It's the purpose of this video, man. There you go. All right. Now that I have all the parts that I want, I go and erase the things that are going to be the elements that are going to be behind another element because we want this to look nice. Right? You can go ahead and erase the parts that you want if you want to, or you can work with a mask. I like to work with a mask as much as possible because if I'm doing something and I don't like, I can continue working the same way as if I already committed to erasing that part. And if I don't like it, I just clear the layer, the mask layer, and it's back. Or if I, so it won't be I don't have to go like hit undo 30 times. Or if I'm already past the amount of undos to get to that skull again being complete, I just work in the layers. And if at the end, or I have to go back, I just can erase the layer and or make it clear, and I can work with it again if I want to. So I lowered the opacity of all of the original layers that I have, and then I create a new one on top of it. So the size of my canvas is 8.5 by 11. It's the size of the paper. That way, if I put if I zoom out like this, and I know that this, no matter what, this is going to be the size of a paper, and I know how it's going to look in a paper when I see it. It helps me visualize the size I'm going to print it. Or you can go in and just have your grid in inches and actually count how many inches is going to be, or however you decide to how big is going to be. Oh my God, English, what is that? All right, back to it. I like to use a technical pen. I have it already set at 10%. Gives me a nice, and I already have the brush to how I like it. Gives me a nice taper. If I want it bigger than that, I have already another one set for 20%, and I have a smaller one if I need a smaller one. But that's for other. Very rarely I get to use the smaller one, and most of the time I work with the 10% size. All right, clean this mess. Yeah, technical. And if I need to have some, keep the stabilization of the streamline around 18 to 19%, 15 to 20%, let's say. It's usually between 17, 18, or 19 that I have it. I like it like that. If I need it to be a little bit more stable, then I will go back in and change it. All right, so now that I have all these parts basically how I want them, and I lowered, let me lower that a little bit more. There you go. That's better. I'll explain to you why in a second. This one too. I want to be able to see the detail of the brush. not too much that I get trapped by just copying it, right? Because that's the whole purpose of this exercise is to not copy the brush exactly. So I'm not happy with this part here of this design. I feel like I'm missing something here. So in the meantime, while I figure what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just continue with the what we were doing. So I have the design set. Now I'm going to start just outlining it very loosely, or as loose as possible. Why do I do this? I want to keep that shape. That's why I choose those specific elements because I like their shape or how they flow with the design. But like I said, I don't want to copy the brush because what's the point? Be if that's the case, I will just print the stamp brush and that's it, which would make my life a lot easier when you think about it. So I try to just go over it very loosely, trying not to trying not to lose the shape. And I could copy these and put it back here because they're essentially the same thing, but that's how it looks. Very loose. All right. Same thing with the skull. Same thing with everything in the. Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you, Nicolas, for suggesting that. Let me see how that. Oh, let me see how this works. Since I got it here, how do I show this comment? Oh, look at that. Sweet. Thanks for the suggestion. All right. This is when the drawing skills come in handy because now I don't have now I have my customer waiting and I don't want my customer to wait while I look for a reference picture of a cigar. And I have cigars in my hands enough times that I know how to draw one by heart now. That's a little bit too close to for comfort, but we'll get there. right. There you go. All right. So I got that very loose sketch of what we're going to do. Now this is going to be my sketch. Now I don't need these original uh, designs. It was pretty fast. It looks a different than the original one. Will help if I put this together. Let me see. I'm gonna put them next to each other. So that you can see the difference now without losing the shape or the size that I already uh, decided that I was going for with the design. Let me go like this. Oh my god. It's exactly what I said that we should avoid. Not waste time. All right, so after I'm done, I'm happy with the design, with the concept. I decided since we're going to do smoke, I think that looks pretty nice. Gives it a nice shape, flow, whatever. Anyway, now I make that one slightly more opaque so that I can go over it. And now I commit to that design. I just in the process I sometimes will notice that something is not working or I don't like how it's coming, how it looks, and I halfway through it I make some changes, but I try as much as I can to keep it as close to what the original design I showed to my customer. So that's a good idea, Nicolas. Coming, making the smoke coming out of the eye, and they make this disappear. But I feel that I am already making so much of the skull disappear behind this flower that I'll try it and see how it looks. If I don't like it, we change it back. All right. So where was I? Let me go there. Why not? And again, I don't want to erase something from the original design, but I don't want to see it there at the moment. I go and I create a mask and I hide that part, and I can have a more solid idea of how it would look. Which, nope, wrong layer can be. This is it. Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's not it. There we go. All right. This one will be coming out of here. There you go. Ooh, it's a shaky line. All right. So I tried something that I tried to avoid that I still do sometimes. Like you just saw me, it's doing this thing, and it's super close to your design. You want to always be able to see the whole thing and see how things are working. That way you can make changes instead of focusing on this little corner and then go back and be like, oh man, I spent all this time here and now I'm gonna have to erase all that because I didn't realize whatever for whatever reason. But yeah, try to always keep it far enough that you can see the whole thing. This is a nice function, but I hate it because sometimes I'm, getting carried away with my line work and then accidentally change. I like to move my hands and put the eraser and go and erase the damn thing. Anyway, not the point. Right now, I'm keeping all the line work almost the same, but closer to the end of the process, I get the bigger size of the same brush. This is my favorite brush. And then I go and I change the line work in certain areas. Usually, I make the lines thicker in the area where I want to show that it's heavier or shaded. Shaded wouldn't be the word, but that's where the shadow is. So it'll be almost, unless I'm playing with the where the light source is. I want to make it more dramatic and put the bottom part. Then I would change how this the thicker lines will go. Right. So I go back. Let me go back to. I'm hearing things. this much. But for the purpose of this exercise, let's leave it like that. I want to try to keep the video to just an hour, so that way, you know, it's here for all of us. So I like how this line is a little bit shaky there. That's when I go and up the stabilization of the pen, so that I can get a cleaner line. I'm a little bit shaky. I don't know why, but I'm a little bit shaky today. That's better. And then you continue here. It's so weird because I forget that I have to talk. I usually have music on, but I don't want to get any copyright. I don't want the videos to get flagged because there's music in the background. So you get to listen to me talking when I remember I have to talk. All right, that works. Doing that thing that I just said that we shouldn't be doing. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So you go and resize the brush. There you go. Done it from the beginning. Oh my God, it's already been 40 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna be done in an hour. All right, so let's pick up the pace a little bit, just a little bit. This is detail that when you print it out, it's gonna be really small. So I don't bother too much with the detail on this area. I just need to make sure that I get the shape right, so that when you see it, you can tell that it's a butterfly or a similar kind of insect. So you can these butterflies have a bunch of little empty spaces here. I again similar to the amount of detail that gets lost, so I don't spend the time on that. Usually that part I just do it all black or a different color depending. I'm feeling my very rarely, I shouldn't say very rarely, but I don't try to get my butterflies realistic. I just want them to look cute or pretty or have a nice color gradient, even if it's a color that they don't really come in that color or whatever. Now, I don't want that so much stabilization. I try to keep my stencils as clean as possible. I There's a bunch of lines that I don't use on my stencils because I just know how I'm going to shade this. So there's a bunch of things that I don't usually draw on it and avoid just to cut the amount of time that I have that I spend working on it. Not that that's gonna make too much of a difference, just a few lines here and there, but I like the stencil clean. So if I was going to tattoo this, I would say that I was ready. This is my stencil. But since I want to show my customer a little bit more than that, I'm going to continue working and get it up to how I will actually do the tattoo. So I changed the brush size. Took me a minute to remember that word. And now I'm just, like I said earlier, working with the line weight. I try to keep like I said, the thicker lines on the bottom part or the elements that are closest to me. Now I want to add some lines to show where I'm going to do the shading and how I'm going to do it. I usually sit with the customer and do this in front of the customer so that they see it. But I still don't want to uh, damage the stencil. I already have a nice stencil drawing. So what I do is that I create a layer underneath that one, and then that's the layer that I'm going to use to shade. Sometimes I just go, sorry, where the light coming from. I have to keep that in mind. That is something that I try to get right. It doesn't always work, but I try. Yeah, don't like that. I don't know why it's it that I don't like it because I'm using that big size brush. So lately I've been digging, doing tattoos like this, just cross hatching. So we're gonna do it like that. Let's say just to save time. I try to use that to, help sell the shape and give it texture. Keeping in mind where that light is coming from. And I've decided that I want to make this leaf look like it's inside the mouth. So I'm gonna put more lines here to make it look like it's shaded. Double checking that I have the right layer. Please check your layers. It's fucking annoying. Alright. Yes. I added this black, solid black here to give more depth. But now I think that this is too light. So I just get the bigger brush and then I go, and that helps it push it back in a little bit. Which is what I was avoiding earlier, anyways. I ended up doing the same thing that I said I didn't want to do. It happens. There it is. It's a little bit darker without being solid black. Yeah, we're onto something. I think we're onto something. Oh my god, we're really close. We're getting close. Oh no, we're getting close. Nope, do not like that. Thank God for the undo, right? I want this to have a little bit, oop, too big. So she said, just a little bit open here. And a little bit here too. It's supposed to be like that. There you go. It's a little bit. Now we can leave the smoke line like that very lightly, or we can just put some shading behind everything, but and do just a negative space. I can go in here, create a mask, really nice. Get a bigger brush. Smoke this up here. Still keep the shape. Mm, no likey. There you go. See, that's why I like the mask. All right. So no, this. Have to be careful. Not open that thing and open something inappropriate, like Pirate Bay or some shit like that. There it is. Try to keep the texture on the rough area, which would be the skull and the cigar. I leave the smoke lightly outlined. This is probably not going to show up in the stencil when I run it through the stencil. I should make a second video for this to see how it looks in the stencil to see if any of these lines hold, because these really thin lines are not going to hold. They're not going to show up on the stencil. But I still like to put them. For the flower, I am going to change the brush to something more like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another layer, lower the opacity. That way I can, I'll show you. It's easier if I show you. I can go crazy putting the shade where I want it. And I can go in and then clean the excess of shading, so it's a little messy, and I keep and it's readable. All right. See, I can see exactly what I need to. Well, it should actually be shaded here too. This is behind that. And we're shading here. Let's leave it like that for now. Because we're running out of time. Horrible, I tell you, horrible. But fear not. I get one of my smudge tools and I use something like this. And I, or not. Let's use this. It's better. I like the softer look for the flower, just to keep that contrast between the two. But this is just a thing that I like. There's no. It's always good to keep a nice balance between all the shading that you're going to have on your piece and or colors. Make some good breathing room. At this point, I've already stressed out because it's been almost an hour. I'm not done for my customer, pay for my customer yet. We're almost there. We're almost there. So yeah, there it is. Is that it? Ugh, looks like shit. Let me make some adjustments here real quick. Hey, that's better. A little bit more contrast. Not so flat, Gambit. And we erase the excess. I think I'm in the wrong layer. Push down. No, I'm not. All right, and now I clean the excess so that when I show this to my customer, he sees the same design that we talk about, but it's not an exact copy of what he saw. And this will be closer realistically to what he will get as a tattoo versus what I showed him earlier. You want your customer to trust you, but you have to earn that. Really softer so it's not a hard edge. And it looks closer to, like I said, what the tattoo is going to look like. And that's it. All right. And you put them together next to each other so that you can see it. Do the same thing. I should just have left it like it was. There you go. Now you can see it. You know what I'm going to do with this? Absolutely nothing because I'm done. So yeah, now you can see the difference between one and the other. That's how I use stamp brushes for. Now I can't stop to design my the tattoos that I'm going to do on my customers. I still want to add more shading so that it's clear of the shape that I want it to show to my customer, or something like that. Something along those lines. I'm tempted to just continue, but we ran out of time for today. But if you want, leave me a comment if you like this or not. If you didn't, please don't leave me a comment. Be sure to check out my Instagram and uh, my Instagram, Gambit Sync. Uh, my Facebook is the same, Gambit Sync. Everything is Gambit Sync, so it's easy to find. And check out my website, gambitsync.com. It's probably down at the moment because we're working on doing some changes to it for the new year, but you can check it out. There's my comic that I've been doing on and off for a few years now. So thank you so much for those who watch, and thank you for those who are going to watch it later. And I'll see you next week.